So today we have Sergey from Axelar Network with us today. Sergey, why don't you start by introducing yourself and what you do at Axelar?
Hey, yeah, Sergey, I'm one of the co-founders of Axelar. My background in distributed systems and cryptography, prior to this, worked on the Algorand protocol. And yeah, so kind of been in the systems cryptography space for a while.
All right, great, short and sweet. All right, then why don't you get into then what is Axelar?
Sure, yeah. On the high level, what we try to do with Axelar is to seamlessly connect blockchains in a secure and a decentralized way, right? So the basic idea is that as a developer, you want to be able to build, the best platform for your needs, but still be able to kind of connect with other ecosystems to bring liquidity, composability, asset transfer, and so on and so forth. And so Axelar is a decentralized network that provides secure connectivity across multiple different blockchains. You can use it to send assets, send information, compose your contracts across different chains. And then on top of the network, there is a kind of service and SDK layer that allows developers to very simply actually interact with different blockchain ecosystems. So we launched the network last year. So, and since then, connected over 30 different chains, everything from Arbitrum, Ethereum, Cosmos chains like Osmosis, Avalanche, Polkadot, and a bunch of others. And so the list kind of keeps on growing and growing. We have lots of developers that are building kind of around the stack, done over 1.7 billion in cross-chain volume through the network, and yeah, kind of continuing to grow and help developers build in the interchain world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Interchain and interoperable cross-chain, those are terms that our community is very familiar with and bullish on. What genre, like category of protocol would Axelar fall under, if it can be simplified such a way?
Yeah, so Axelar itself is a proof of stake protocol, right? So it's powered by a decentralized network of validators. So anybody can join, anybody can participate, and the network itself is based on the blockchain technology. So you can think of it as it's a proof of stake blockchain that connects other blockchains, right? That's the simplest way of thinking about it. And sort of the network is then responsible for cross chain routing, kind of transport security, and so on and so forth.
Okay, cool. That's simple enough. So then in its cross-chain operability and how does connecting it um, make Arbitrum better, like connecting to Axelar in that way?
Yeah, so once we're connected to Arbitrum, now users from Arbitrum and developers from Arbitrum can tap into different blockchain ecosystems by sending cross-chain messages, right, or token transfer requests. So, as an example, let's say you're building your application on Arbitrum, right, and you want to allow users from Cosmos ecosystems or from Stellar or from Polkadot ecosystems to be able to interact with your application. So the way to do this is that you can architect your application so that the messages can be sent back and forth between those chains and your application, right? So if the user wants to make, let's say, a deposit into your application, maybe even using an asset on a different chain, they can submit that transaction, on Polkadot or Avalanche or any of the other chains that we support. You can route those messages to your application Arbitrum. You can execute them, and then you can return the results back to the users, or if the users remain within Arbitrum, you can do that as well. um, and then vice versa, right? If you're a user at Arbitrum, and if you want to access some of the other ecosystems through Axelar, you can do that as well. So you can send stable coins around, you can send other assets, or if you have an NFT that you want to port into another chain, assuming it supports kind of the cross-chain protocol, you can do that as well. So it's really kind of a multi-dimensional, transport layer that you can think of it, that we established between both developers and users, between Arbitrum and over 30 other blockchain ecosystems that we're connecting today, and adding many more kind of every day.
Right, that's actually really cool. Not that I'm surprised, but how would you differentiate, I guess, that from the terminology around bridging, or is it pretty synonymous, just for clarification?
Yeah, so bridging is an application on top of Axelar, right? So the basic idea is that people used to bridging as a concept to send tokens around, right? And kind of historically, a lot of the bridging protocols have been very centralized. So you end up with a small like multi-sig, and we've seen lots of attacks in the space as a result, which is not very ideal, right? So kind of Axelar, first of all, is a decentralized protocol, which kind of sets it apart from all the other bridging protocols. And second of all, it supports many-to-many connectivity. So classically, bridges are kind of pairwise objects, right? And you have to think about, if A connects to B and B connects to C, how does like A connect to C? And so by default, you avoid all these problems with Axelar being a many-to-many protocol. And finally, Axelar supports like arbitrary general message passing or contract composability, right? Whereas kind of traditional bridging mostly focuses on like token transfers. And I actually encourage the listeners to go to like axelarscan.io, which is a pretty great explorer that we build on top of the network, and you can see kind of various paths across the network, traffic flow, and so on and so forth. The basic idea actually is what we're trying to do with Axel is eliminate the concept of bridging, right? I think people are used to doing bridging because there was no other way around, but we are hoping to see kind of the next set of applications being built that are chain agnostic or interchain that allow users to interact across multiple blockchains without even thinking about it, right? So if you have an asset, if you see an application, you can go and use it, but you don't have to really think about, well, do I need to move my tokens around? Do I need to like get some gas to pay on this destination chain? And all those other questions, I think should be kind of abstracted and eliminated away. And so that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and that's like a pretty big deal when it comes to pushing this space into, more of international usability, like just the Web3 space as a whole, just needing to eliminate that legwork of understanding how all different networks work within your crypto wallets and how to change that and add them. And most people in the world don't have the time, or if they do, they have a hard time understanding it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, so when you talk about, so it's not a bridge, it's kind of trying to help evolve the idea around bridges and how we interact cross chain and interoperable. So a lot of people, likely think of security and how, there's always an increased bit of risk when you're, using transactions and doing things across different chains and having them interconnect. So basically, yeah, how does it become worth the risk to use these things, and then how is it being secured as well on top of that?
Yeah, so I think security, is one of the hardest, problems in the ecosystem overall to solve, right? The way we approach security is actually kind of very holistically from the ground up. So first, I think it's important to start with the right design that's secure and decentralized, right? So on that note, I think as I mentioned, Axelar is a decentralized network. You have an open permissionless validator set. Anybody can join, anybody can participate with it. And, beyond sort of philosophical aspects, I think this has very practical security implications where, the deployments and the software stacks are diversified, right? And so, for an attacker to make any kind of compromises, they really have to compromise large decentralized sets of, nodes of participants, which is much harder, of course, to do. So I think having the right design and the right starting base point is, critical in this. So that's one. The second thing on top of it, various kind of engineering practices that are needed to actually build a secure system, right? So everything from kind of code audits, we've done over 30 of them. We have like an active bug bounty program on Immunify worth over $2 million that's been riding for a while as well. Various kind of unit tests, end-to-end tests, and so on and so forth. So just kind of putting a rigor in the engineering practices behind all of these solutions is of course important. And the third thing is what we call as like application layer security add-ons, right? So the basic idea is that if you have a cross-chain application, maybe the application does like token transfers then most of the time you can actually set things like rate limits in that application layer, right? And say, well, for this specific use case, maybe I only need to transfer 10 or $100 million per day. And so my code in my application logic needs to enforce those types of rate limits. And then in the worst case, if there's like a compromise or something like that, then your damages are sort of mitigated, right, or capped at least. So yeah, and I think those things at the application layer, we're starting to see more and more from different protocols that are building around Axelar as well, leveraging it. And so if you combine those three layers, decentralized network, right, robust engineering practices, and application layer security add-ons and features and customization, then you can actually end up with very strong and robust security systems.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for explaining that. So I saw you guys are involved in the Interop Summit or Interoperability Summit. I've never been there, and it's actually the first time I heard about it, but it looks really interesting. So I'm wondering what basically goes on there. What do people talk about? What's interesting in that space?
Yeah, so I mean, it's good that you haven't heard about it because this is the first time we're actually, doing this.
Oh, sweet.
So I'm
Makes
glad.
sense.
But yeah, the basic idea is that we're starting to see this next wave of interchain application build outs and developments, right? And a lot of the ecosystems and blockchains are starting to talk to one another, collaborate, send messages, exchange communities, and so on and so forth. And I think, in some sense, what we're trying to do with the Interop Summit is to, kind of unite the Web3 community, right, and kind of come together just to talk about how to build the next set of applications that are, chain agnostic, that can span the whole Web3, right, that can leverage different communities, different assets and different use cases. It's been a little bit unfortunate that I would say over the last, few years that, there's a lot of fragmentation within Web3 ecosystem, right? And I think that fragmentation doesn't actually help us get to the final mission or the final results. All of the individual communities are still relatively, small, and still a lot of work that needs to be done to kind of get to the end missions of trustless, verifiable, programs and financial systems. So we're trying to just get together at this Interop Summit, talk about the application, build out, talk about interchain future, talk about roadmaps of different projects, how they can kind of collaborate together, how can they, help continue driving the mission of the whole of blockchain ecosystem. So yeah, it will be held, before ETH Denver on February 27th, 28th in Denver. So, and people can kind of go check it out. We'll actually have Stephen, right, the co-founder of Arbitrum, come and join us there at the event as well. So I think it's going to be, super exciting. So I encourage people to come by and check it out.
Yeah, that is really exciting. I didn't even know Stephen was going to be there, so I'm sure I would have found out close to the date. I pinned a thing at the top of the spaces for people who want more details about the Interop Summit as well. It's actually really interesting if you go check it out.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's really cool. So if there's going to be an interoperability summit, there's going to be more than one interoperability network, as we probably need a lot of different people working in this space. How would Axelar be differentiated from other interoperability networks? That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the networks, right, that you look at, they're at least in the past have been pretty centralized, right? So you have kind of small validator sets or kind of relayers and oracles you may have to rely on that are often centralized, that provide the security of your application, right? So an Axelar, like I said, is a decentralized protocol. And that's at the core of it, and the transport layer, like I mentioned earlier, supports many to many connectivity. Yeah, I mean, I think we're actually be announcing a couple other interesting upgrades to the network as well, which will be exciting over the coming months. But yeah, that's the high level.
All right, cool. I'm curious from your point of view, since you've been working in this specific part of the Web3 space for quite a while, like what's your your vision for, the next way for us to adopt Web3 and how that looks for developers and the end users, because it's what a lot of people, they're thinking about it without even knowing that they're thinking about it in those specific terms.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, throughout the last bull cycle, we have seen kind of the issues of interacting with different blockchains, right? Be very painful for the users, right? So as a user, maybe you have a token on one chain, but then you found an application, on Arbitrum or somewhere else that you're excited about. How do you use it? Kind of traditionally, it's been a pretty complex process. Maybe you have to, first go get a token of that chain, right? You have to maybe move your asset or bridge it over. Then you kind of use the application. Maybe at the end of the application, you get like some other token if it's a decentralized exchange. Then you move it out to some other blockchain. But to do that, you have to get gas. You have to flip wallets and so on and so forth. So kind of very, very complex and multi-step experience, right? And what we are working towards is kind of abstracting all of that away, right? And so as a user, maybe you have a wallet, you have an asset, you have applications that you want to play with, and you can go and do it with one click, right? So that's really the key, and maybe not have to think too much about how to bridge things, or how do you tap into one ecosystem or the other. I think that's the ultimate goal, right? I think if you think about it, kind of the world always starts isolated, right? You have countries, you have continents, you have economic regions, but when you combine a lot of that together, then the power amplifies exponentially, right? And so I think that's what we have to really realize right now, is that it's not just kind of this one blockchain against this other blockchain. It's really all very, very small, right? And still, like you said, we still have to do a lot of work to get the users, the developers, to interact with it. So by kind of combining all these things through the interoperability layers, you get to do that. You get to unlock much higher economic value for your users and for your developers in return. But the experiences have to be better, right? Both developer experiences and user experiences, without having to think about all these different chains, all these different users, and kind of how to tap into them. So abstracting that away, I think, is pretty critical. You have things like account abstractions, right? That I think is finding a lot more momentum now that people are chatting about, which I'm excited as well. And I think kind of everything goes up the layer in some sense to abstract the complexity of interacting with different blockchains.
Yeah, I agree. Account abstraction is something I'm also learning about more this year, and I'm excited about. It'll be one of those things that people don't even have to, I guess, understand it to experience its utility. I was wondering if you don't mind kind of explaining account abstraction in maybe a simplified way for how the users here would expect that to look.
Yeah, so I mean, the basic idea, right, of account abstraction is to give you some type of a smart wallet, you can think of it, or smart address, right, or an account on a blockchain that can then execute functions or interact with different applications on your behalf without you maybe even have to think about how to pay gas or how to manage it in one way or another, right? So kind of very simplistically, if you want to authenticate, right, with one method or the other. So, for example, you want to use like Google authentication method, right? Or you want to use your GitHub as authentication method. Then sort of account abstraction will allow you to do those things in order to interact with that account, right? And so you can first of all have a pretty interesting access and security control policies around it, right? Maybe there is a social recovery policy behind it. Maybe there is authentication policy around it. And so it goes way beyond just having a private key, right? Where you have a private key and you have to kind of back that up, but you can really bake into both individual and enterprise layer authentication within those kind of accounts. And the second point, which I mentioned, is how do you interact them from those accounts with different applications? So maybe in some cases you don't have to have gas. Maybe in some cases, the transaction itself has to go like cross chain, and you don't want to have to think about it. So account abstraction effectively allows you to abstract away the interaction with the individual blockchains or individual applications and the requirements for it, like gas and like cross chain, and users can just kind of interact with these accounts in a native way.
Yeah, it's so cool. I definitely recommend for people listening today, if you don't, you've never heard of account abstraction, definitely do some self-learning on that. It's a really cool part of the Web3 evolution right now.
Have you guys seen use cases of like what are the use cases that you see on Arbitrum for account abstraction?
Account abstraction would definitely be good because we're a layer 2, so we want people coming into blockchain. Obviously, Ethereum is one of the first things they hear about, so likely they'd be using Ethereum, and therefore we'd want them to be using a layer 2 for obviously faster throughput and less gas fees. But with account abstraction, it'd be great in my mind on the gaming layer of things to not have to worry about manually signing transactions every time you're trying to do something in a game, for example, and it'd be a lot more frictionless and seamless in my mind.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. All right, cool. I was wondering, what are some of the applications that are specifically building on the interchain using Axelar? Because we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, so the general, I guess, categories of applications range from DeFi, NFTs, wallets, payment networks, and things like that. So kind of every, I would say, application that had some type of a product market fit within the crypto blockchain industry that's looking to scale is an application that's sort of building on Axelar, right, or rewriting their stack on top of Axelar. Some examples. One I'm pretty excited about is Squid. So you can take a look at it at 0x Squid. 0 is a number. It's building a cross-chain liquidity payments layer on top of Axelar, right? So the basic idea is that if you want to be able to route or swap liquidity from one asset to another with one click or with one transaction on a given chain, kind of how would you do that, right? You can certainly do it directly, sort of on top of Axelar, but these kind of a payments or routing liquidity layers allow you to make it even simpler to use that, both as a developer and as a user, right? So as a developer, if you want to, let's say, receive a payment in a particular asset like a stable coin, but you want to allow users to pay in all the other assets in the crypto space from any other blockchain, you can then plug in with this API, and that would allow you to do that, right? So I receive USDC as a payment, but user can go and specify ETH or Sol or any other token. It would automatically be routed, swapped on the back end, and then delivered to your application. So that's one example. You have examples like a Prime protocol that's building a cross-chain, brokerage. You have a bunch of wallets that are building both kind of cross-chain swap functionalities and liquidity transfer functionalities. So those are some of the use cases that we're seeing now.
Cool, that's awesome. I'm glad I've heard of both of those protocols. I was just wondering, Sergey, do you have time to take a few community questions today?
Sure, yeah, happy to.
All right, cool. I think we actually have one here already from Kabir. Hey, Kabir, welcome to the stage. You have a question for Sergey or Axelar today? Your mic's muted, by the way. This usually happens. In the meantime, Sergey, I'm wondering where people in the chat or in the community could find documents and details on Axelar and just interoperability in this space in general. If you have any recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, I think our website is a good starting point if you want to just get involved with Axelar. It's axl.network. You can find a link to the docs, which is like docs.axl.dev. And we have pretty simple examples for how to get started building cross-chain or interchain within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and so on and so forth. So I think those are pretty good resources if you're looking to get involved. Arbitrum is already live, so you can actually see the gateway contracts. You can start interacting with the network, send messages back and forth, and hopefully it'll be pretty easy. And if you need any help or have any technical questions, we have a Discord developer channel. You can also ask any questions there, and we're happy to answer them.
All right, great. We actually have a question on stage right now with Sheikh. How's it going? You just need to unmute your mic and feel free to ask a question. I think you're raising your hand, but you're on stage.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My question: I saw Axelar network is a Cosmos chain, and now they came to Arbitrum. So is it going to be all stable coin on Arbitrum are going to be transferable, or it's going to be only USDC? Because I think USDC is a common stable coin. The network use.
Were you able to make that out, Sergey?
Sorry, I didn't quite understand. So, what was your question?
Okay, my question is, a lot of stable coin that people usually use in an exchange or a network are probably USDC. So is it going to be only USDC? You guys can be transferable in Arbitrum network, or we can also transfer like USDT, BUSD, or is only going to support, or is going to be only supported USDC?
Oh yeah, so all assets can be supported, right? Not just USDC. So first of all, Axelar itself supports arbitrary general message passing or general composability across contracts, right? So you can send any asset that you want, and if you have your own asset and you want to issue it multi-chain, you can use the Axelar protocol to do that. Natively there are applications and kind of a bridging applications on top of Axelar that will support different assets from USDT, to BUSD, and a bunch of other native tokens of other chains as well. So kind of with the general message passing, right? This allows you to have pretty much arbitrary to incomplete composability and arbitrary token transfer. So all of them will be supported.
Okay, I think that's answering some of my question. Thank you very much. I will appreciate for to see more about that.
Yeah. And you can, by the way, go to satellite.money. It's one of the bridges that's built on top of Axelar, and you can see kind of various tokens that are already supported today.
Sure, I will check that right now. I really want to learn more about it, so I'm going to check it right now. Thank you.
All right, thanks for the question. Kabir, we got you back on stage. You ready this time, buddy? Oh, I heard some static.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. You're just a little bit quiet.
Okay. My question is that, like, I usually trade on Arbitrum, so like most of the time that if I want to trade some coins, I will see
It's
that
pretty
like
hard to hear. Can you speak closer to the microphone?
It's tough to hear you, Kabir.
let me use I'm using the iPad. Let me close it. Okay. Hope you can hear now.
Yeah, that's louder.
Okay. So like do you have any plan to like adopt many crypto project like that so that we crypto traders can find more coins on your blockchain?
I mean, as I mentioned just now, right? Any kind of a crypto coin can be supported through the Axelar and between Arbitrum and other ecosystems. So, you can go to satellite.money to check out some of the supported ones today. But because the protocol supports arbitrary genuine message passing and pretty much any token or any type of trading activity can be supported in principle.
Okay, I got it right. Thank you. Please, can you help me with some place or platform that I can go and check the list of the coins that are available on Arbitrum blockchain?
I believe it was the satellite.money, right, Sergey?
That's right, satellite.money.
There it is.
Okay.
Kabir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. We'll just do one more, Sergey, if that's all right.
Yep.
Cool. We got Larry. Larry Binance Jr.
Hey, I appreciate you bringing me up here. Sergey, my question for you was, would Axelar consider leveraging something like interchain security from the Cosmos Hub just in order to increase the security of the bridged assets? I know there's also some discussion of using mesh security with osmosis. So I don't know if you can comment on that.
Yeah, certainly in discussions, right? I'm kind of considering those things. I think as blockchains are built, I think as the industry evolves, we're seeing more and more of these kind of economic sharing, right? Ideas both from eigenlayer, right, on Ethereum, right, kind of interchain security, mesh security. All of them are pretty similar in that direction. So absolutely, right. As more value is locked on Axelar, right, as more value is protected by Axelar for different applications that we secure, we certainly have to increase the economic security of the network itself. And for those of you, by the way, that don't know, right, the idea of the kind of interchain or mesh security is basically to lend and borrow security of one token to protect security of other networks, right? So, as an example, Axelar is built around Tendermint and Cosmos SDK, so we can use security of Cosmos Hub, right, or Osmosis to amplify our security, and vice versa. We can lend security of Axelar to other blockchains to increase their economic security, which would make pretty much all economic attacks kind of irrelevant or impractical. So yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the question. How's a good one. All right, Sergey. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for your time, and just remind everyone that where they can go to ask any more questions if they had any later on.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you have any questions, I think you can go to Discord, right, which is a great place to start and ask us anything there. The link is available on our website, axel.network, and you can find it at the bottom, and we will be able to help you there.
All right. Thanks so much, and good luck at Interop Summit, and maybe we'll see you at ETH Denver.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. Hope to see you guys there as well.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.